yeah, the yoga teacher for the finance professionals. I would love to hear about that. So what's the difference between a plain yoga teacher and a yoga teacher like yourself who's helping finance professionals feel better or be better? Give us some more details. It sounds very interesting.
Sure. So, I started off as a lawyer, and then I moved into, well, always focusing on financial services, and then I moved into a regulatory role in the financial division within Deutsche Bank, and during that time, I developed an interest in yoga, um, and then from there, I went on to become a yoga teacher, and then once you become a yoga teacher, or at least the experience I had was like you wanted to share that practice. So I started to offer classes to my colleagues, and then we were given the opportunity to offer classes to the wider organization. So my colleague, another colleague of mine, and myself, we run DB Yoga, and we offer yoga classes online and courses to the whole organization and globally too. So it's been a real journey, a really, really exciting journey. And I think understanding the pressures that people have working in finance is quite unique. Also, the language of finance, it's somewhat unique in terms of how people communicate with each other. I understand that perfectly. And so I really understand what it means to work within the organizations and the pressures people face. But also at home as well, there's a lot of people who have families and so forth, so they're busy with their time. And so, I've been really pleased to really focus on or create this niche where we're offering these specialized services to financial services professionals, as well as offering mindfulness and breathing
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah, that's amazing. We're going to talk all about that. But before that, give us more details, especially for people who are not finance professionals, because I'm sure there are some people who are not in the finance world and listening to our podcast right now. What are their pressures and pressures they are facing? And also, you told something about the language they use. So I would love to
Yes.
learn more about that. So what's going on over there in the financial world that is keeping these
Sure.
people really stressed and in pressure?
Yes. So I think every organization is unique, but I think generally speaking, across the industry, there are some common characteristics. So financial services organizations, that their mantra is to generate profit and revenue. These transactions are complex, and also there's significant infrastructure that supports the business. And so across the board, people are under pressure to perform like any organization. But within financial services, the pressure can be quite intense because the margins can be significant, the transactions can be quite large. Often they're put together in a very short time frame. So people are under a lot of pressure to perform both on the sort of trading and the business side, but also the infrastructure to support these transactions in the businesses generally. And also, we've also seen across the board recently significant reduction or focus on costs. So people are doing more with less, and so that obviously creates more pressures for people. And so you're really feeling this sense of this intensity that occurs within these organizations. And so that's quite unique. And I think understanding that is important as a teacher, that when students come to class, you understand what their day has been like and the issues that they face and what it means for them to come to class and what they're looking for in class. So I understand that really well. In terms of the language, it's really interesting, the language of finance. It almost speaks, you can almost describe the language of finance in its own self. It talks about things like haircuts and liquidation value, and it has all this kind of terminology which you have to be very familiar with to understand what they're getting at. And so I kind of very eloquent in that speech as well. So I can kind of talk the language of finance and I can talk the language of banking. And bringing those two together is quite interesting, and actually encouraging my fellow bankers to come to class.
Yeah, brilliant. How it sounds for me is I think there are they're under a lot of pressure because they're taking a lot of responsibility. I mean, in the finance world, especially if you're managing funds or stuff, the one little mistake you make and you might lose a couple of million pounds. Maybe that's kind of like that huge responsibility. That's what I hear from you. I think maybe that like too much weight on their shoulders, and whenever we feel like there is too much weight on our shoulders, we kind of like tend to get stressed, and then our bodies get stressed, stiff. So I understand that you're helping these people with yoga and also with maybe some wellness coaching. And I also hear that you work with them with breath work and breathing techniques, like specific techniques. Would you like to give us some more details around that, like how you're working with classes and coaching, combining many different approaches?
Of course. So there's a couple of things, Nevşah. So first off, I trained in mindfulness meditation about 3 years ago, and I was keen to like when you do these trainings, you feel very empowered. So I wanted to bring that back into the organization, and I was just very fortunate that there was an established group already, and the teacher was looking to lead the organization, and I took that over and then grew that, and then that became the bank's, the UK bank's de facto mindfulness channel. And then then the pandemic hit, and then we moved all our classes online, and then suddenly we were increasing our classes to twice a week, and then we created our own unique format whereby we'd start with an introduction, arrival breathing practice of various types, a little short Dharma talk or little insights into mindfulness and meditation, and then I lead them through a guided meditation to finish the class. So that's been going now for almost 4 years, or 3.5 years now. So really, really, really enjoy that, because I think the yoga is great, but what I'm seeing the consistent interest in and is actually the mindfulness and the meditation and the breathing and the space that it really gives people, that they know that when they're coming to this class, they can just drop into their body, feel good in their mind, and then leave the class feeling refreshed and then ready to get back into the day, and with a little bit of insight into mindfulness too. So I think it's a really powerful little thing that we've created within the organization. And then secondly, I'm a mental health first aider, so I've been able to offer that as part of some of the wellbeing sessions that we host as part of those initiatives.
Yeah, and how I see my team has written on the screen how important is breathwork for yoga. So I need to ask that question. How important? I'm going to ask two questions. The first one is, how important do you think breathwork is, in yoga practices? And then the second, what are the results you're getting? Like, how does how has been the results you're getting, and do people like it? Like, how is the finance world with yoga and breath work and mindfulness right now?
Yeah, really interesting question. Thank you for asking. So I think, without breath, I guess from a conceptual perspective, obviously we all breathe, but without the breath in the yoga practice, it really becomes just another exercise routine. You see a lot of apps these days promoting yoga poses for physical fitness and so forth. That's all fine, but you have to ask yourself, is that really yoga? I think that, the key to yoga is the breath. If you ask someone what yoga means to you, 50% or more people say, well, it's all about the breath. And that's the union, the link between the mind and the body and the spirit, which is one of the meanings of yoga. It's interesting enough, the word spiritus comes from meaning what you may know this already, but it comes from the Greek word spiritus, which means to breathe, so all the breath. So there's that key aspect, that linking everything together with the breath, and then allowing the mind to settle on the breath creates a form of meditation, which then brings a different quality to the practice, which really, at its highest end, is all about elevating levels of consciousness and then feeling much better in our body and our minds as a result.
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of like, breath is the bridge between the body and the mind and spirit, and it's pure spirits, because I've been working with breath for a long time. It's the pathway to a spiritual practice. You either practice yoga poses like you said, as some fitness exercise, or you dive deep into those poses and really understand what yoga is all about by using your breath and make it a spiritual practice, a spiritual and mindfulness practice. That's the main difference. That's brilliant. I love it.